must prepare ourselves to seek the truth.
If you'd asked me when I was 5 years old what I wanted to be when I grew up, it was I wanted to be famous.
The clowns are ready, they're here.
Sure enough, by 11, Nathan was an actor in a low-budget horror. Its director, Victor Salva, was a friend of Nathan's mum.
His grooming process was developing my love and trust and developing my parents' trust. The first time that I remember there being any kind of touching or abuse, I was staying the night at his house, his apartment, and we were watching movies, and one of the movies he put on to watch was Jungle Book. He got two bandanas and tied them together and made this loincloth, and as he's tying them, he's like fiddling me, and that's like my first memory of when the abuse started, and eventually it progressed over the next 5 years. Videotape all of it. I mean, it was full blown.
When they found out, Nathan's family went to the police and Salva was convicted and jailed. But that hasn't affected his Hollywood career.
The neighbors talk about him like he's some kind of a phantom.
Powder, one of the scripts he wrote in prison, was distributed by Disney's Buena Vista Pictures. And he directed the Jeepers Creepers franchise.
What happened here happened before.
He's been coddled completely by certain members of Hollywood, and big names in Hollywood have been backing him and throughout the entire process. It just seems like and Victor's a part of that club.
I've heard many stories of kids going to an agent who can control their career and put them into auditions. And so the agent's spending time alone with the child. They're able to sort of, unfortunately, get them away from parental supervision. And then they take advantage of these kids. And it's more common, I think, than we can even imagine.
Hollywood might not like talking about it, but it doesn't take a lot of digging to find even more examples of how it often has selective amnesia when it comes to some of the past behaviour of those it chooses to welcome into the fold. In 2004, actor Brian Peck was convicted of having sex with a child, but has since worked on the kids' show The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Do you like the designs?
3 words. Hit the earth.
And anger management.
You got to realize how many studios may have protected people that they knew what they were doing wrong, that knew it, should have got rid of them a long time ago.
Different strokes it takes, different strokes to move the world.
Todd Bridges, who starred in one of the 70s biggest sitcoms, was arrested by his publicist.
I'm one of the few children, that have, got rid of it and still around. Most of my proteges have died or they committed suicide or OD'd, because they couldn't get over it and stuff that happened to them.
Corey Feldman and Corey Haim were two of the biggest child stars of the 80s. Both said they were abused by pedophiles during that time.
I know that there's thousands others that have experienced what I've experienced in the entertainment industry. I also know that there's peers of mine who know exactly what I'm talking about and know all the details, but have been afraid to come forward with their own truths.
The Weinstein scandal has triggered a domino effect, with hundreds of people coming forward with allegations of abuse by other powerful figures. For decades, they were dismissed, discredited, and paid off. But will this be enough of a catalyst to finally force Hollywood to oust its abusers? Katie Spencer, Sky News in Hollywood.
How did you get them alone?
Grooming. I would check out their family situation. I would check out their clothing to see how well they were, financially. I would check out their social interaction with other kids. When we were on the ballparks or on the gym floor, I would make sure which ones I wanted to molest. I would give them special attention, congratulate them, talk to them when I know that I would never be allowed to talk to anybody else. Aside from everybody, I would give them the attention that an official is not supposed to give anybody, and it made them feel like, wow, he's paying me attention. It is a direct form of grooming.
Were there certain characteristics that you looked for in children before molesting them?
In children, yes, but more I also looked at their families. If I thought the father was a threat, I would not approach the child. If I thought that the child had friends that he would tell, I would not approach him. If I thought the child had friends that were in the same capacity he was, I would approach him. For the simple fact that if I could him, I could lure him into believing, grooming him into believing that he would enjoy it. And therefore, I could manipulate him into having his other friends come and be molested by me as well.
So perhaps a child that doesn't really have a whole lot of friends, maybe not really a strong family, things like that.
Yes, no spiritual values, weak in education, you know, needs help in many ways, even from split parenting, you know, has a mother who may be having problems with the family, you know, well, here comes superhero in to help out, you know, wow, well, thank you very much. No problem. You ever need me to take them away for the night so you can have a night out? No problem. It works.
This is the innermost part of this compound, and it gives you a true sense of what these children had to endure. Some of them were living cramped up inside of this RV, and we now know that it looks like some of them may have been living inside of this tunnel. It is extremely confined down there. The property owner has allowed us to mount these cameras here so we can show you what these kids faced.
Tonight, exclusive video from inside the tunnel where children's clothes and toys were found 5 feet underground. A room believed to be dug inside by children with shelves for candles and lamps, bedding, and kids' books. It's just one of the horrors that 11 children were forced to endure. No running water, babies as young as 1 year old living in the desert heat, squalor inside of a buried RV, bunk beds in a U-Haul still littered with bullets. The property owner incredulous over what investigators left behind.
There's birth certificates, there's copies of social security cards.
Around the compound, small reminders of a child's innocence. Sketches of hearts and flowers. But on the firing range, today, a disturbing discovery.
So this target right here looks like it was drawn by hand by a little child in blue marker. It's got a little girl's name on it, and then a shotgun blast to the chest and one to the head.
The parents of the 11 kids, who authorities describe as Muslim extremists, in custody today as officials continue to investigate whether the kids were being trained to carry out school shootings. Those children now in foster care and under the protection of the state.
Gotti joins us now. Gotti, what happens to those children? Do they stay in foster care?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Lester. Right now, the state of New Mexico has filed a petition requesting that those kids are not given back to their family members yet. Instead, they want them to stay in foster care, stay under the protection of the state where they can get professional help.
And then 2 nights in a row, you have shocked us with the amount of apparent evidence that's sitting there. The crime scene now has been abandoned by authorities. Why so much evidence still unseen?
Yeah, we've asked investigators that same question. They've told us that they were abiding by what was prescribed by the search warrants. They also said they took things that were in plain sight. But I got to tell you, we've been here on this compound over the last few days, and we've seen all kinds of questionable things. This right here is a briefcase. It's got a cell phone in it right here. This is what looks like a police scanner. That's a lock-picking kit. So you got to wonder why a lot of this stuff wasn't taken. As for the FBI, we know that they were surveilling this compound before all of this happened. But at this point, we don't know their involvement in this case because they haven't commented.
Some sort of interesting features that I want to share with you. Behind this panel is how you access the mechanical room for the building. This is just a fun feature if you needed to go and turn off the boiler or something. So obviously this house has a lot of history, and one of the really cool stories is that there was a tunnel leading from this room to the Prohibition-era speakeasy down the block, the famous Chumley's. This house dates back to the 1820s, but the fact of the matter is we don't know how much digging was happening in the 1920s in the Prohibition era, so it's rumored that this tunnel may have actually been from the Underground Railroad.
Definitely some more stuff is in here since the last time I was here. That's nasty. You can literally hear people up there. It's welded shut though. I wonder what's behind here. Kinda want to see, but nah. There's just a bunch of trash. There's nothing back there. How long does it take for a dollar to decompose? It's a great question. Dude. Wow. Damn, that's so gross, man. You know, all kinds of graffiti down here. Oh, hell no. That's kind of cool. I don't know why you'd put that in the Boston Metro, though. They call it Death Star. Melbourne, Australia. It does look pretty cool. That shadow is wicked. Sour Patch Kids. Looks like they really don't want anybody going through here. What the fuck is that? Oh, hell nah. What the fuck? Looks like they are claiming, I don't know if you guys can read it. So, survival supplies, finished by Office of Civil Defense, Department of Defense, 17.5 gallons.
Right in these trees, just on the left side of this fence, that's where this thing is.
This is a prison cell. Only kids are being held down here.
And they brought me into the camp and showed me the underground bunker. It was basically a giant plastic container with a hole only small enough for a child to crawl in and out of. And it was angled in such a way, and it was buried underground, that a small child that was in there could not have gotten out on their own.
They're having them slide up.
There's a child's vanity and a hospital toilet. That looks like a child's car seat, strollers and children's toys and clothing and food packets and stuff like that. So clearly children had been kept here. All right, so with these straps. But one thing that was really disturbing was there were arm restraints, wrist restraints on two trees angled like this to where friends of mine that are investigators that do a lot of stuff on the border say, Craig, that's a tree. That looks exactly like wrist restraints for a tree. It doesn't look like anything else. This is clearly a disturbing and wrongful thing going on. It's inhumane. It's shocking and upsetting to any.
Torre was making sure Turner Hall's gymnasium had adequate support one day and stumbled upon a room he believes was meant to be hidden.
Lo and behold, there's a cutout there which went to another room where we believe that they stored booze during Prohibition era, because it's got this hard to find opening where as you just come right down the bar stairs, you can just get the beer as you come back.
Bar owners say there was even a network of tunnels during Prohibition. Puddlers Hall and Bayview owner Casey Foltz says they haven't seen much use since alcohol became legal again in 1933.
Down in the basement, there is the remains of what would have been the tunnel system through some of the bars here in Bayview. It's been blocked over. I haven't taken a sledgehammer to it yet, but I've heard plenty of stories of, people as kids running through the tunnels.
DeTore says a similar system existed underneath Old World 3rd Street, connected to the Milwaukee River.
The proprietors of the bars would be able to get their booze through these different tunnels and then run them into the different bars. And so our Vel Phillips tunnel was closed, I think, during the 70s when they were expanding the sewer system.
The Milwaukee County Historical Society says Milwaukee was notoriously lax about not enforcing prohibition, but that did not stop people from skirting the law and eventually getting caught.
The courts were completely clogged with cases. They had to create a whole new court just to handle prohibition-related cases.
Society Director of Collections Ben Barbara says brewing was the 4th largest industry in the city prior to prohibition, and despite those federal raids, the booze kept flowing.
Establishments where they were bootlegging and making liquor that had escape hatches so that people could escape if there was a raid. A lot of establishments would have a secret back door that you could kind of bring your illicit alcohol in.
DeTore says digging deeper paints a more solid picture of the drinking clubs that survived in Turner Hall.
Because we found the notes and recipes for hooch and all sorts of things amidst the artifacts.
They were called bimbo clubs, which stems from a German word meaning camaraderie.
They'd write each other letters on vacation. They had collections to support one another in times of need. So so-and-so's fallen on hard times, and they tap into the bimbo fund.
Eventually, prohibition ended and Milwaukee celebrated, but there were some lasting changes. Breweries consolidated as only Miller, Blatz, Schlitz, and Pabst were able to survive.
In Alton, Illinois, we are going underground into a tunnel that was just found.
A lot of brick. Whatever they built this far, it took a lot of men and a lot of hours. You know, not one guy didn't do this.
Gary Mockins first uncovered this tunnel when he discovered a sidewalk starting to slope.
Had a problem here at the sidewalk, and as we were doing some excavating and pre-packing the rock in there, we discovered this tunnel here. And according to historians here in the Alton area, this tunnel was probably put in here around 1840.
When the West Alton farmer and his wife moved into this home, he knew of its history dating back to the 1890s. Mockins believes the change in elevation from 1895, when this brick-lined street was put down, covered the opening to this underground mystery.
But why is it stair-stepped right there? Why is that in there? What was the purpose? You see the offset in the brick? And then if you actually look along this wall, it turns that way a little bit. Like look down along this wall.
Whether for ice storage, a carriage, or part of the Underground Railroad, it's anyone's best guess.
It's unique. There are a few tunnels around the Alton area we have found out since we checked with the Landmark Historic Society. It's probably been used for maybe a half dozen things through the years, anywhere from an ice house to a root cellar and maybe a few other options.
The history. I mean, you got to wonder why that tunnel was made.
It could have been used for a part of the Underground Railroad. There's no proof of that, but there was a major ferry here in the Alton area going back to the Missouri side, and it's possible it could have been used at.
Well, I think it was for the Underground Railroad. That's what my theory is.
Mockins is open to the idea of opening the tunnel for tours if he can get the city or someone to help with the logistics and cost. For now, he has to fix his sidewalk and seal up the tunnel.
We've got maps that go back to 1863, and this house was not there, and there was not another house on this property here. There was two down at the corner and one up at this corner.
Mockins, a history lover, says he wants to preserve this past and the current day mystery in his life.
Before Your Brother's Bookstore opened its doors last year, the owners say they were replacing the floors and discovered a trap door to a room under the floor.
We, of course, went down immediately.
What they found was an old, dusty room with a hole in the wall. They say they assumed it just connected to the basement of the next business over and didn't think about it much. That is until the Evansville African American Museum reached out, thinking it might hold evidence from the Underground Railroad. When people in the museum came to investigate, they learned the hole in the wall connected to a tunnel that runs under Main Street.
The first day that it happened, our sign outside said, "Ask us about our secret tunnel," because I just wanted to tell every single person that it was down there.
They say the museum didn't find any evidence of the Underground Railroad, but they did find artifacts connected to Prohibition. They say they found parts of a still, glass bottles, and even a table and chairs built into the wall they believe could have been part of a gambling den. county historian Stan Schmidt says this fits the area's prohibition history.
Indiana went dry before Kentucky did. And so there was a year or so where there was a lot of stuff coming across the river.
The owners of the bookstore say people from the museum took a few artifacts with plans to make 3D models of them. Then the originals will come back and they'll have a small museum-quality exhibit in the store. The owners are also thinking of how they can take advantage of their secret room.
We've been coming up with just funny things that we can do down there. I think we're just going to throw down some like porcelain dolls and seal it back up and let that be a surprise for the next people.
Until the exhibit is up and running, you can always catch a glimpse of the trap door peeking out from under a rug in the store.
So my house was built about 500 years ago. A little while back we were clearing up these bookshelves. I noticed that the wall behind was actually hollow. This is a photo of this room taken in 1870. Behind that bookshelf you can see there's a handle. First thing I'm going to do is clear off all of these books. I think this bookshelf comes off really easily. Now this is all done, I can see that there are actually some screws I need to take out now. So we got all the screws out, now we're going to see what is behind this door. Oh my god, what? So I've just pulled up this board and there seems to be a hole that leads to another room. There's also this really creepy staircase that leads up there. So I made it upstairs and the first thing I saw was this massive wasp's nest. So this room is actually huge. My light won't even reach that far. Looks like something's moving over there. I can see some steps over there, so creepy. I've got myself a massive light now and we're gonna try and go through this hole. So there's a room in there, a room down here. There's this as well, but it looks like a dead end. I've decided to go down this one. I was searching around and I found all these like old books. On the cover it says 1851, but I don't know. So I've come from over there, I found this door here, and then there's one down here as well. I think my light may be running out a bit. Thank God I'm not claustrophobic. I found this corridor here and these stairs, but they're blocked off. This looks like an old boiler, and I can hear the new boilers above. I've actually found an old safe.
Alright everybody, we are here in the tunnels, here in Chickasha. These were used during the Prohibition to help with the alcohol. I don't know how far we're going to be able to go back, but as you can tell, these are super old. Sorry for the shakiness of the camera, but I gotta make sure I don't step on anything. One of the pipes were loose. Pretty amazing down here. Oh wow, look at the old hammer. So many people want to know why I go after these places, and this is why, folks. This is a very rare opportunity to talk about our past that's not seen very often. These are hand-dug tunnels, as you can tell. We're going to go this way. I gotta watch my head. If it gets too narrow, I'm gonna turn around. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's as far as I'm gonna be able to go. Pretty amazing piece of history, though.
This is not something you see every day.
I think it's pretty interesting. I'd like to know what's on the other side of that wall.
It's kind of exciting. I've heard that it could be the Underground Railroad or something like that.
Workers tore down an old house as part of the blight elimination program. But what those workers didn't know, this tunnel was underneath it, at the front of the house. Scott Lance says his friend's sister was told about this when she looked into buying the home 3 or 4 years ago.
It was rumored that there was a tunnel that tunneled from here all the way over to Taylor Street.
We were told there are no records or no maps that lead back to this. It's truly being called the Mystery Tunnel.
To our knowledge, everything that we've looked at so far, this is nowhere to be found.
When the contractor hit this tunnel during demo, he stopped working. Workers put up a fence and the city officials called the state.
I think it's really cool. I mean, who would have thought that something like this would have been under this property?
Everyone seems to have their own ideas of what it could be, but whatever it is, it's definitely creating a lot of talk.
I think it's pretty neat seeing all the people coming around and looking in there. It's kind of funny a little bit.
A lot of these houses had a lot of the big old cisterns on them, but I can't imagine why somebody would build a house over top of that.
I have absolutely no idea. I just think it's really fascinating because this is not a typical demolition for us.
Charming may be the best word to describe the Morning Glory Inn on the south side. With a beautiful courtyard in the back, it's become a popular spot for weddings.
We are different. We are a city bed and breakfast. We do a lot of things that other venues couldn't do.
The owner tells me they try to make the experience stress-free by providing the catering, the bridal suite, and taking care of every last detail at the historic inn.
This is a typical south side basement.
But you have to go downstairs to explore the history we're interested in.
Here's the tunnel. It's about 15 feet or a little more.
Dave Eshelman shows us the tunnel that extends beyond the basement.
Well, will you take us in here?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, let's go.
We follow the tunnel under the front yard and sidewalk above.
Can't quite stand up in here.
No.
Into a little room that sits under part of Sarah Street.
And above, right here, was a manhole cover.
Oh.
It got closed up.
It's only about 4.5 feet tall, but 24 feet long. So what was it used for? Well, it turns out the inn was built by a German immigrant, and construction started just before the Civil War.
He built this to be a safe house.
To be part of the Underground Railroad and help slaves escape to freedom.
This was where they put them in, and then they take them into the basement. They never got upstairs.
There was a water well in the basement rather than outside, and there's also evidence of how the tunnel could be hidden.
These were spikes coming out here and turned up like hinges, so that maybe they had a cabinet that swung around there to sort of hide this.
But experts think the home may have been completed too late for slaves to have actually used this tunnel. Yet the brick floor is well worn from heavy traffic.
If it wasn't the Underground Railroad, what in the world was it?
Well, Eshelman thinks prohibition is the answer.
It wound up being used later during Prohibition to what? Stockpile liquor?
Well,
to
who
bring
knows?
liquor
They might
through?
have had the stills in here. Or this might have been just a warehouse they're distributing it, you know?
The booze could have been lowered down from the street above through the now sealed manhole cover.
Whatever they were doing during Prohibition, this was perfect.
And while most guests at the inn don't get to see the tunnel, Dave does enjoy showing it off.
It's nice that Pittsburghers a little bit more aware of all the history that's here in a lot of different ways.
What engineers and repair crews found here, they say, is rare. It was supposed to be an easy fix. A couple days and done. Have you ever seen anything like this?
I've never seen pedestrian tunnels like this in Kansas City ever.
When crews dug up a leaking 16-inch water main at 27th and Cleveland, it led them to this. So right now we're right underneath the intersection.
Right in the middle.
A tunnel to the city's past, closed off for decades. It was built so children wouldn't have to walk across what was once a busy street to the Greenwood School, once one of the biggest elementaries in the district.
I get a lot of customers say they used to go to school across the street. They said it used to be real clean, lit up, look real nice.
A lot of people remember the tunnel, but no one seems to know exactly when it was built. Best guess by repair crews, the 1940s. But get this, the water main that went underneath the tunnel was dated to 1904. One of the most interesting things about these tunnels is the layout. It's just like an X, like an intersection, but it's set up at a different angle. So if you wanted to go just across the street, the kids would have had to come down one hallway and go down another. The tunnel was closed off sometime in the 80s, according to locals, fenced off for good. Sort of.
Oh man, homeless, rats, cats, the trash. First we thought it was a basement to our building, but as we went down there, it was the tunnels. That's the first time, in my history that I've seen this.
Now, this tunnel will be split up to make way for a new water main.
Yeah. So you're going to basically plow through this wall and continue it down the middle of the street.
Right.
Okay, back here live, you can see the overgrown cage right there that's kind of fenced off. That is the entrance, one of 4 entrances at this intersection that goes to the tunnel. Fix should take several weeks. What's interesting about all of this is this tunnel was actually built before the Public Works Department existed. So that's why it's been kind of an eyesore and a problem to deal with ever since then for not only the city, but also for businesses that work around here.
There's the history we proudly show. A flag flying, a home still reminiscent of decades ago. And then there's the past that lies hidden, deep down where dark secrets live. Tucked away tunnels filled with barrels of booze. History now covered by concrete.
Talking about something that was illegal, it's embarrassing to the Italians who have worked very, very hard, who are still living today.
Nancy DeGusta Callinger has spent most of her life in the part of Omaha known as Little Italy.
This shows how far it goes one direction.
She looks at these pictures and remembers getting a call from a man who discovered a hidden hideaway. He was sure this is where they made and stored whiskey during Prohibition.
It wasn't just dirt, it was bricks and cement and rebar and passageways. And I said, I'm right, I'm coming.
Go to the property now and you'll only see dirt and a patio. Callinger kept searching for other old underground bunkers for booze, like the one that joins Jillian Edmonds' garage to her home. It's said to meander even more.
I think it's neat, but that's just me.
Sure looks like this is a stairway to nowhere, but it used to lead to another house. Now, rumor has it this house blew up, possibly because of a distillery fire. And people say this house used to lead to that house by tunnel. As you can see, the tunnel still exists in some capacity, but where it used to lead to the other house, this curve in the wall, well, that has since been patched.
I think everybody bootleg.
Our journey to unravel fact from fiction took us to a place where a plate of pasta is always served with a story on the side.
I'm one of the IBM people, Italian by marriage.
The weekly Sons of Italy lunch.
When that house blew up, it knocked me out of bed. It broke the windows out of our house.
88-year-old Sam Sambasili remembers the Park Wild House explosion quite well, and he remembers underground alcohol operations.
Take the sugar to your distillery, and nobody seen you come. Then when the whiskey was ready, you just brought the whiskey back, put it in the car, opened the garage, and drove out. Nobody knew what was happening.
We went back where Sambasili grew up, and we couldn't believe what we found. Inside his parents' old home, under a trap door, we crawled inside to a different time.
Down here, you truly see history untouched. There are about a dozen barrels like this. They're huge. Some still have spigots attached to them. And check out those tools. That shovel is obviously decades old.
Sambasili tells me his dad rented this space to a neighbor who dug it out and went to work making whiskey.
I think storage and hide it from the police, yes.
John Blecka wrote Cigars and Wires, which looks at bootlegging and gambling during a time when corruption ran the city.
I tried to center on the major bootleggers. I didn't really want to get into the small-time people because, in all honesty, that was throughout the city.
The few bunkers we found in Little Italy may just scratch the surface of what exists throughout Omaha. No longer hideaways for hooch, but still sheltering secrets, only uncovered when we dig deeper.
Authorities found a small amount of methamphetamine and 10 pounds of gunpowder inside this Milledgeville home. The Ocmulgee Drug Task Force also discovered hidden rooms and a 15-foot tunnel leading to another large room. Investigators were afraid booby traps and explosive devices were set up around the home.
As we made our way out to the tunnels, we stumbled across this old 19th century Victorian wheelchair. Now, these old antiques are normally valued at around 1,800 to 1,900 pounds to this day. And it's quite a special find, as you really don't see many of them anymore. This is one of the underground tunnels what lead you down towards the old dairy mill. As you can see just in front of us there's a section which would mean that we are just underneath the flower border at the entrance with the grills.
So these are what you saw in the beginning at the front of the house. And you see those grates, what I was saying, look down the grates. As you can see, it go right the way round.
Wow.
And this is the tunnel where the lady said you have the bats.
This is the section of tunnel what would lead you down to the stables and the old dairy mill. Now let's make our way through the last of this underground section of tunnels and up to the game larder. The game larder would have been where they would have stored any animals what they would have caught and killed on the hunt.
It was Thailand, 2016. I was working with another nonprofit at the time, and the team leader was there, and I was just starting out with this undercover shit, and I was like, all right, he's like, I have my girlfriend's in town, so he's like, I'm gonna go spend time with her, but I was like, I'm in fucking Thailand, I'm away from my fucking kids, I'm like, I'm gonna work. And I went out by myself, and I started looking, it was like those little peddling, trafficking kids, the begging kids for it. And I was like, just a little young girl working that. And I was like, you know, I'm just gonna fucking act like I'm drunk. And I went 7-Eleven and it's like 2 a.m. and I was like, fucking stumbling around, sure as shit, taxi pulls up. He's like, yeah, I'll take you somewhere. And like, kind of long story short, he takes me one place and not young enough. It's not, you're not going in like, what a kid. You know what I mean? Like you have to, work it. And I was like, finally, he's like at 3 a.m.
It'd be a little on the nose.
Exactly, so like they get the fucking point. And then he takes me like 10 minutes outside Bangkok, then it's 20 minutes outside Bangkok. And then all of a sudden, like he takes me to this place and it's like a fucking steakhouse. I'm like, the fuck is this? And like there's the little lights on and it's like, I don't know if he's fucking triad or something, comes fucking walking out. And he's a pretty big dude and he's fully tatted up. He's black pants, black jeans, black boots. And I'm like, okay, I'm just kind of getting serious, like it takes me inside and like, in the corner, there's like these 3 ladies, like these nice outfits, and they're like counting money under the table. It's like something out of a fucking movie. And then like a Papa San comes down, like versus like a Mama San, like a guy's running it. So he takes me upstairs, and there's some young girls, but they're Asians. It's tough because I'm like, I don't know, like 12 to 15. I'm seeing, and I see a young girl with braces, and I was like, yeah, I'll take that one. And they're like, all right, we'll take you back to your hotel room. I was like, no, like, do you have anywhere I can go? And they're like, oh yeah, we have a place for you. And so then they takes me to get escorted by the dude and the girl, and they take me to like this fucking carport, and these big metal doors, and this door opens up and it's a fucking room, and then they threw some condoms in and shut the door, and I'm like, oh shit, like this escalated quickly, and I'm just collecting intel. So I started talking to her, and we're using my phone. You don't know if you're being monitored like that, so we're just laying in bed, like sitting there, and we're texting back and forth. And she's like, yeah, they kidnapped me from fucking Cambodia, like she showed me her tattoo, kind of told her story just back to translation. I was like, look, I'll be there tomorrow. Like, I will come back. She's like, no, you won't. It's like everyone says that and like nobody does. And I'm like, no, I will be here, I promise. I give you my word. And then passed the information and then nothing was done.
Right, Adam. Although we've learned in the last hour or so from the city buildings department that they have successfully shored up all but one address adjacent to this synagogue. One building, 304 Kingston Avenue around the corner, does still have a vacate order because of fire safety concerns. But as you indicated, the controversial tunnel that the buildings department discovered has been sealed and filled with cement. Start with a famous address, 770 Eastern Parkway, headquarters of the Orthodox Jewish Chabad Lubavitch organization.
This is understandably the most recognizable Jewish building in the world.
Now add in a famous religious leader, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson. He died in 1994, but remains such a powerful symbol that a group of students here seemed convinced the late Rebbe had commanded them to expand the basement synagogue, subject of a decades-long real estate dispute.
They actively knocked down the wall separating the synagogue with a nearby basement, and that's what got all over the news.
The result, a makeshift tunnel that you may have seen on social media this week. Let's go, yeah! It also got the attention of the city's Department of Buildings and led to several arrests for criminal mischief and reckless endangerment. The DOB found the passage 60 feet long by 8 feet wide by 5 feet tall, had no approval or permits, had inadequate shoring, which risked the stability of neighboring buildings, so vacate orders were issued, and cement trucks showed up over the past 24 hours to plug the passageway, preventing anyone from getting trapped down there.
All of the buildings that needed to be shored up are in the process of being shored up.
City Council member Crystal Hudson said local religious leaders acted responsibly.
The Chabad Lubavitch leadership and building management were actually the ones who called the police.
She and others also condemned online anti-Semitic hatred that spread quickly when images of the tunnel went viral.
It's completely a question of real estate and who controls the property. The word tunnel, because of what's going on in the Middle East, has been associated with large complexes that span entire cities.
I think oftentimes when you have a story like this that goes viral on social media and the internet, you get all sorts of tropes and stereotypes, and I think that's exactly what we saw.
Is this an uncomfortable topic for people?
It was uncomfortable for me. When we first discovered it with the Hope Box, I was mortified.
The Hope Box started in 2014, a nonprofit aimed at tackling the issues of infant and child abandonment. But with their work, they discovered infant and child trafficking.
Is that really what I think it is?
Yes, it is what you think it is.
Sarah Copeland agreed to sit down with us and discuss the darkest and sickest crimes the organization sees.
They see these children as a market, as a commodity.
Product.
Yes.
Who buys children and infants for?
I've seen old to young. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. It doesn't matter what your color is. It doesn't matter what your belief is.
In 2017, 60 people were arrested, 4 children found in an FBI-led sting that uncovered a child trafficking ring here in Georgia. Among the victims, a 3-month-old infant and her 5-year-old sister. Their going price? $600. Sarah discovered another case of a mother trying to sell her own baby.
This young lady was serving men in Atlanta. The infant was in the hotel room. She had gotten arrested, and when she was getting out of jail, she sent a tip to the aunt that had the infant and said, "My pimps told me I could get a good price for my baby. I'm coming for it."
Legally, police and DFACS couldn't stop the mother from getting her infant back. Sarah got an emergency hearing with a judge who stepped in to protect the infant. These stories are 2 of many, some too disturbing to share.
This child had no say in what was happening to them. And even if they cried out for help, it's not like they could ever describe it.
Infants and children are found online on the dark web. They're often referred to using animals as code names.
3-month golden retriever, a black lab.
But it's not just mothers selling their own babies. Children can be kidnapped and sold by others. Sarah is even more concerned today as the crowds descend on Atlanta for the Super Bowl.
We need to pay more attention than ever concerning, because it's easy to lose a child in a crowd.
While airlines like Delta release training videos to prepare their staff for spotting child sex trafficking, and Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms steps up efforts to protect children, Sarah says the hope of saving them comes down to everyone being vigilant.
Please, if you see something, report it. Just because they're with an adult, that does not mean that is their parent. Don't ever look the other way. Better to be safe than sorry.